Hi, this is Sujita. Welcome to the Focused on GRF English Literature channel. In this video, we are going to see Anglo Saxon literature. In the previous video, I have given you about the history of Anglo Saxon age. So please go to that video and look into that, then come to this video because this is the right way of learning, knowing the history and then knowing the literature of that age. That is the right way of knowing, studying. Okay, so let's go into the video now. So, what are the literary characteristics of the period of Anglo-Saxon period? So, Old English is the language during this period, but it is not a definite language. It is not a definite language because the native Britain language plus Germanic tribal language, it combines together to form Old English. So Anglo-Saxons, as you know, they are Germanic tribes, and there were also people who are native Britain. So those people's language and the Germanic tribal's tongue, it mixes together to form Old English. So that's how Old English formed. So these people, they consider songs and poetry are very important component in the society. They didn't consider about prose or any other genres. They think that songs and poetry to be very artistic, and so they wrote and sing poetry. So in the beginning, actually, it was only in oral form. The poems are in oral form. But only after 733 AD, they start to write poems. Okay. So poet or scope, the one who's writing poem or composing poem are considered to be a poet. You know that already. He is also called a scope in this Anglo-Saxon age. Okay. So these people have a great responsibility to give a socio-cultural value in their works. So whatever the works they write, it should have some socio-cultural value. Okay, so they have to teach people what is their responsibility and how should they behave, all those things. And the poem which they wrote, they are not only about Christianity, they are also about the Germanic heroic past. So as the Anglo-Saxons or Germanic tribes, they wrote about their heroes in their poems. They not only wrote about the Christianity, the religion. Okay, so Sashura is a kind of technique they used in the poem, which means to break in the middle of the line. So when they're writing poem, they leave a break in the middle of the line, and that considered to be a great technique, great literary device, and so they used in their poem as an ornament to the poem. Okay. So they also use alliterative words, and then kenning is a kind of literary device they use in their poem. Kenning means it's a compound words. When you use a compound words to describe things indirectly, you are indirectly mentioning a thing by using a compound words, which means, for example, Whale Road, WHALE, whale plus road. So what does it mean? It means sea, definitely sea. What is whale? Whale is a big fish, a great fish, biggest fish that lives in sea, right? So what should be its road? You know what is road? What is our road? The tar road we have here. So what is whale road then? It is sea. So indirectly to mean sea, they are using compound words. That is called kenning. Okay. So they thought that poetry is artistic, and only prose developed after the spread of Christianity. Only after the spread of Christianity, the prose genre it spread out, because in Christian churches, they have to keep record of things, what happens in those period, how much they have spent, and all those things. They keep a record for all those things, and that's how prose start to develop. So there are three kind of poetry we can see during this period. First one is heroic poetry, then lyric poetry, then Christian poetry. So let's see what it's about heroic poetry and what are all the heroic poetry we are going to see. So the first heroic poetry is Beowulf, very famous heroic poetry, very famous poem during this period. So it is actually an old English poem, and unfortunately we don't know the author. This is about the heroic adventures of a hero, that is Beowulf, and this happened in Denmark. So Beowulf is actually a young warrior from southern Sweden, but he came to Denmark in order to help King Hrothgar. So King Hrothgar is having some problem. The problem is that Grendel is a lake monster. He used to actually there is a great hall built near the lake for the people to meet. So people usually come to meet in the assemblies in the hall, and whenever they come there, this Grendel who live beside the hall, it bothers the people. It creates great hindrance to the people. It kills the people and so on. And so King Hrothgar, he need in help of Beowulf, and so he asked him to come to Denmark, and let's see what happens. So Beowulf, he fought with Grendel and he defeated it. Okay, so now what happens is that Grendel's mother, she is so much angry that he has killed, great Beowulf has killed her son Grendel. So she comes to take revenge, and Beowulf, he killed Grendel's mother too. So later, what happened is that Beowulf is praised and honored as a king, and he's ruling the country for 50 years. So after 50 years, what happened is that he has to kill another dragon which bothers the people, and he also defeats the dragon. But in the end, what happened is that he is mortally wounded, and so because of that wound, he dies. So this poem, the Beowulf poem, it doesn't only give you about the adventures of Beowulf. It also gives you a beautiful picture of life and the attitude of people living in those days. Okay. So this poem also have alliterative verse, stressed poem lines without rhyme and those things. Okay. So, J.R.R. Tolkien, he describes and illustrates many of the features of Old English poetry in his essay on translating Beowulf. So, J.R.R. Tolkien, he wrote an essay named On Translating Beowulf. In this essay, he is describing and illustrating the features of Old English poetry. What are the features it has? All those he describing, and he is illustrating those things in his essay. So next comes the William Morris. So he wrote a translation of Beowulf. So Beowulf has been praised by so many people, and many translation has been taken place. So William Morris is also one who also among the one who translated Beowulf poem. Okay, let's go to the next poem, that is Voltaire. So this Voltaire poem is definitely about the story of Voltaire, and it is about a prominent ruler of Aquitaine. Voltaire is actually a prominent ruler of Aquitaine. So this is very popular story in the Middle Ages. Okay, this happened in the Old English period, but in the Middle Ages, this poem is considered to be poem is very popular among the people. So the story of Voltaire, the poem is about the story of Voltaire and Hildegard. So these two people were kept hostage in a court of Attila. So Attila is a court. So they were kept hostage in that court. So these two people, when they were in the court, they fall in love with the treasure that has been kept in the court, and they steal it, and they ran away from the court. So that is what the poem is about. And this poem is also about the conflict between the king of Burgundy and these two people. Okay, so these two people and King of Burgundy, they are having some conflict. So this poem also tells about that. So next poem is Fight at Finnsburg. Finnsburg is a place. So it has a fort. Finnsburg is a place where it has a fort. You know what is fort, right? So the fort is called as Finns Fort. So the Finns Fort is attacked by many people. Okay, so here comes a knave. He is a soldier in the fort. He and his 60 retainers, they tried to hold the attackers. They were only 61, but they tried to hold the attackers from the other side, and that's what the poem is about. Okay, then Witzit. Witzit, in this poem, the scope or the poet, they talks about the survey of the people. They talks about the king. They talks about the heroes of Europe in the heroic ages of the northern Europe. And so in the northern Europe, there are it's a heroic age. So in those time, he's speaking about the how people were, who are the kings and how they were, and he also talks about the heroes of Europe. Got it? So now we have come to the lyric poetry. We have seen heroic poetry so far. So lyric poetry, the first poem is Wanderer. So this poem is very good, has a very good message. So this poem is about an old man. Okay, he talks about an incident that happened to him in his young age. So in his young age, his friends as well as his families, what they did is that they had some conflict between each other, but they didn't resolve by talking to each other. They just fought against each other and they killed each other and they died. So he has the memory of all those things and he is giving a message to us. He is encouraging us that people, please, if you have something against others, resolve things peacefully. You should not rush into the battle. What a wonderful message you see. If we have any problem against each other, we to speak to that person and we should try to resolve those things, but we should not at any time rush into the battle. That's what the message. And he also telling that he is finding very little glory in bravery. Bravery is not everything. Relationship is is greater than bravery. That is what his thought is. Okay, so the next poem, Seafarer. So this poem is about a seafarer who always go on voyages in sea. So he's talking about the condition of the cold weather in the sea. Okay, so it's a wintry season, and so the sea is more colder. Okay, so he's comparing to the people in the land, that you people who lives in land, you are like living with your kinsmen and you're away from danger and you're celebrating with food and wine. You're very happy, but I am here in solitude in the sea. The life in a sea is solitude. That's what he's telling. And he's telling that climate of land is safer than sea, and but you know, he also earns for sea because he loves his job. And even though he considered to be dangerous, but he loves his job so much. And the Seafarer poem has been translated so many times, and especially by Ezra Pound. Ezra Pound, a great poet, and he's a great person himself. You know, he helped so many young poets to come up in life, especially T.S. Eliot. Um, and he supported T.S. Eliot in his weak time, and we got a great modern poet as T.S. Eliot. That's just because of Ezra Pound. Not only T.S. Eliot, Ezra Pound has helped so many people to come up in their life. So we should be um, grateful to Ezra Pound. Okay, so Ezra Pound also have translated this poem Seafarer. Next is Wife's Lament. So lament means you're speaking in sorrow. That's what lament is about. So here it is about a female speaker who is in the state of despair, and she's expressing her sorrows. That is what the poem is about. Doyer's lament. Doyer's lament is about Doyer is actually a singer. So he has lost his lord's favor. You know that, ma'am, in those days poets been patroned by lords or kings or landlords and so on. So I know this person Doyer was also been patroned by a lord, but he has lost his lord's favor, and he banished the lord. He banished him and he sent him away. So now he is hurt and he complains about how what he is going to do without the Lord, and so on. But in the end, he's comforting himself by remembering others' sorrow in the world. This is what is a great message, for us. So we live in a very good environment. We have a roof to live in. We have nice food to eat, good dress to wear, and we are very happy. But then if we have small problems, which is like a dot, but we think it is a great mountain, and we are like lamenting about it all the time, and we are like um, yes, we are not happy with what the life the God gave us. We are complaining to God every time whenever we have problem. But you have to think one thing at that time. Just think about the people who don't even have a house, who don't even have a roof to live in, or don't even have a food to eat, and don't even have a good dress to wear. So think about those people and think how blessed you are. So that's what the poem is about. The Doyer, even though he is very hurt and even though he is very sad, he is thinking about the people who are more sadder than him, and he is comforting him. Okay, at least I am in this place. People are more lower than me, and so I'm at least in this place. That is what he's thinking, and he's comforting himself. The next one is husband's message. So this is about a message of husband to a wife. So this he is a soldier. This husband is a soldier. A war has been declared in the country, and so he leaves his husband. Sorry, he leaves his wife and his homeland, and he goes to the war. And this poem happens after the war. Okay, so the war has ended and he's writing a message after the war to his wife. So he doesn't get a paper or a pen to write. Of course, it is a war place. So he writes it in a wooden piece. He's carving in a wooden piece and he's sending a message to the wife. Okay, so the message is that he is recounting the past life, but he is not recollecting the misfortunes that happened to them in the past life. Which means he's so positive. He doesn't want to speak the misfortune that happened to him in the past. He just want to tell her the happy time they had in the past. Okay, and he also tells that he misses her so much, and how he wants to return to his wife and reunite with her in a new home. Okay, that's what the poem is about. Then we have come to the third kind of poetry, that is Christian poetry. So the first poet we are going to see is Caedmon. So far we saw only the poems, but we got Caedmon here as a poet. So he is considered to be a first English poet. Okay, because he is the first poet we know so far. So the previous poem we saw, we don't know who the author is. We just know the poem. So Caedmon, he is actually a young shepherd. He is not able to sing. Okay, he is not a good singer. And in his village, there is a practice in the church that people can go and get their chance to sing the harp, to play the harp. So you have to stand in a queue to get your chance to play the harp. So people before you will play the harp and they will pass it to you for you to play. But whenever this Caedmon is standing behind a person, he never gets a chance, and the person who is in front of him, he never gives the harp for him to play, because they think that he is very bad player, and they don't give him the harp, and so he is very hurt and he is very sad. He goes to he goes to his home and he slept. Okay, this is also very good message. If you have some problem, just sleep it out. That's very good therapy, actually, sleeping therapy. So here, this person also, he goes to house and he slept, and in the dream he sees a god, and the god is telling him to sing of his creation, and the god disappears. In the morning, when he wakes up, Caedmon found that he could sing and he can also write and compose poems. He felt so happy to the god that came to his dream. Okay, so Caedmon's only surviving work is Caedmon's hymn. So this work is about he wrote this work in honor of God because he's so grateful to God who gave the talent of singing and composing poems. So he write in honor of God. All of his poems are on sacred dreams. Okay, so he wants people to turn to righteousness, and so he writes all kind of religious poems throughout his life. And so he is also called as Anglo Saxon Milton. You know who is Milton? Milton is famous for his religious poem, that is Paradise Lost, Regained, and so on. Okay, so as this person also writes only religious poems, he is also called as Anglo Saxon Milton. Got it? So the next poet is Bday. So Bday, he wrote a work called Ecclesiastical History of English People. So this work is fully about information about the early Saxon England. So we can get the history or the information about the early Saxon England. Okay. So he also writes about how Christianity developed in England, and this work is actually written in Latin, but it was translated into Old English by King Alfred. Okay, so I already told you about the previous video. I already told you about King Alfred. Who is King Alfred? And and how he encourages education. All those things I told you already. So this King Alfred, he translated a Latin work to Old English. Okay. So this person, King Alfred, he also writes about Caedmon and how he started to compose poems. Okay, so he also writes about Caedmon and how he started to compose poems and so on. All those things he has written. Okay, then we come to Wolf. So Wolf is famous for his religious composition actually. So he is also like Caedmon, who write on religious things. So these are his religious poem, Fate of Apostles, Juliana and Christ. These are his religious compositions. So he is considered to be very important because he was the first poet to sign below his poems. Whenever we draw something, whenever we write something, we used to write our name below the work, right? So Wolf is the first person to sign below his poem. So he considered to be very important person. And we have one of his poem in detail, that is Dream of the Rood. Rood means here cross where Jesus is crucified. Okay, so Dream of the Rood. So the poem is about the narrator is actually having a dream and he is speaking to the cross where Jesus died. Okay, so it is divided into three sections. The first section we see the vision of cross. He's talking about the vision of cross. In the second section, he is speaking how the cross has been honored of above all trees, like just like how Jesus is honored above all men. Okay, that's what the second section is about. The third section is about the reflection of the vision from the author, and he is also speaking about the cross that he see, and he is also praising God for blessing him so much. Okay, we have come to the last slide. So this is about Anglo-Saxon prose. I already told you that prose happened because of the spread of Christianity. Before that, only poem was there. So King Alfred, he encourages education, and especially in English language, in the old English language, not in Latin. So King Alfred is so much into his mother tongue, and so he encourages people to write in Old English, to translate in Old English. Okay, so he himself had translated several books from Latin to Old English. So that's how he loves his mother tongue. And he also started Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. So, this is a periodical used to publish every year, and it continued till 300 years. So, because of this chronicle, we get so much information about those period, the people, the poets, the works written at those time, the kings of those time, the heroes of those time. All those things we came to know because of such an chronicle. So, he has done a great work. He has initiated a great work of writing this chronicle. So I hope you understand what I taught you so far, and if you have any doubt, you can give in the comments. So in the upcoming videos I'll be giving you about Anglo-Norman history, and then about Anglo-Norman literature. So stay tuned with me. Until then, goodbye.